AGR International is an internationally owned corporation. However, AGR was born of a glass research scientist in Butler in 1927. Great! In 1962, he sold his company, which became American Glass. The hell is this? The FBI cleaned up biological evidence from the crime scene, which is unheard of. Cops don't do that ever. Someone else cleans it up, but not the FBI. They're like, yeah, make sure there's no DNA, because it's gonna show up somewhere. By discreetly disposing of the substances without any formal reporting. But the discovery of cocaine was different, okay? The Secret Service agents, if they found that, like, Hunter is just dropping cocaine everywhere he goes. The Secret Service busted doing some interesting activities in a secret room that they're probably not supposed to be using that for. Here from Susan Crabtree, she reports that during a Donald Trump visit, the same Donald Trump that the Secret Service let get shot in the head, when he was visiting North Carolina, a woman Secret Service special agent abandoned her post to breastfeed with no permission or warning to the event site agent. That's according to 3 sources in the Secret Service community. Popping it out right there. Kid needs to eat, you know? So Trump already got shot in the head, and she's like, well, that other Secret Service agent really didn't get in trouble for posting sunset selfies. The other Secret Service agents didn't get in trouble for taking naps at Mar-a-Lago. So yeah, just freed my kid here. Now, shortly before Trump's motorcade arrival, I'm told 5 minutes before, okay, the site agent was getting ready for the arrival. This is not the agent who is breastfeeding. The site agent is the person in charge of the entire event. Now, the site agent went to do one final sweep of the walking route and found the agent breastfeeding her child in a room that is supposed to be set aside for important Secret Service official work, you know, like an emergency related to the president, like if he got shot in the head. A working agent on duty cannot bring a child to a protective assignment unless you're this woman. The woman was out of the Atlanta field office. Now, the woman agent was in the room with 2 other family members too. Yeah, come on by, bring her by. Yeah, sure, I'll feed the kid. The agent and her family members bypassed, so they breached protocol, the uniform division checkpoint. Family members didn't even get checked out, just wave them on in. And they were escorted by an unpinned event staff into the room to breastfeed. Unpinned means they've not even been cleared by the Secret Service to be there, just like Matthew Crooks. Now, when contacted about the incident, Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said the incident did not have an impact on the event. He's like, nobody got shot though, so what's your problem? And we're reviewing this anyways. And what, do you want the kid to starve? What's wrong with you? It's like, my gosh, I didn't realize how bad things were. Yesterday, we were making fun of Ronald Rowe for going in there and telling all these Secret Service agents, like, we're not going to leave you behind anymore. You know, we're not going to overwork you and stuff. It's like, I didn't realize that their kids were starving. Like, things are pretty bad over there. Is she working like 24 hours a day or something? I mean, things are rough. Now, all employees of the Secret Service are held to the highest standards. Yeah, except when they get people shot in the face. While there was no impact on the North Carolina event, the specifics of this incident are now being examined. Given this is a personnel matter, we're not in a position to comment further. All right, so we've got breastfeeding Secret Service agents, nap time, sunset selfies, all the things, and we've got more reaction on this. So Klay Higgins has come out. You remember him. He's done some good investigatory work on the January 6th stuff, and he releases an initial investigative report about what happened on J13th. And so this is his press release from his congressional website. He says, all right, look, I'm a member of the task force. Remember the J13th task force on the attempted assassination of Trump. And now we are releasing our preliminary investigative report. Now, the preliminary investigative report was submitted to task force chairman Kelly on August 12th. The document intended to foster discussion among task force members. It has been embargoed for several days pending authorization to release it. So I sent this, right? Thank you for that. So we sent it on the 12th, and then it took them a couple days to review it, and then we published it on the 15th. Higgins says, as I've said, every question will be answered, okay? Every theory explored, every doubt erased. The American people deserve the full truth on the attempted assassination of Trump, and our investigative efforts are moving forward in good faith. Now let's go through this report in detail and see what's inside. As you can see, from Klay Higgins, Louisiana, 3rd District, as part of the task force to investigate J13th, we'll call it the J13th committee. This is the preliminary investigative report to the chairman, Mike Kelly, from the bipartisan task force on the attempted assassination of Trump. Now they give us a disclaimer. This is preliminary. Investigation is ongoing, but here are the details. Now, after appropriate arrangement through the congressional office of the task force chairman, whose district encompasses Butler, I traveled to Butler, says Congressman Higgins, on August 4th. And during my time there in the ground in Pennsylvania, I was able to focus on about 20 hours of my initial investigative endeavor. 20 hours on the initial endeavor. As always, my investigation was focused on hard evidence. And the author of this is Klay Higgins himself. So it's not some investigator, it's Klay Higgins. As always, my investigation was focused on hard evidence and facts, guided by my instinct instincts and experience. My overall mission was to personally observe and investigate the available crime scene, along with the anticipated and other interactions with witnesses, landscape, hard evidence, corroborative evidence, circumstantial evidence, and more. My initial investigative intent was to carefully observe and listen and document the totality of circumstance about this attack. Be calm, move slowly to the center, let the crime scene talk to you is the advice that he got from a patrol cop. So we went to Butler. Now we have a big responsibility. I've got some experience. I was also accompanied by a retired SWAT officer. I served with this guy for many years, fully supported by your office. 20 hours was uninhibited. It's important to note that Pennsylvania law enforcement is coordinated a bit differently than most other sovereign states. So he says, during my early investigation, I was greatly assisted by these people. Commander Edward Lenz. Talking also about the ESU, the Butler ESU, they're well trained and well equipped. The equivalent of a SWAT team. They handle all tactical missions for a bunch of people, ATF, FBI, US Marshals, and more. Now, security for J13, though, was controlled by the Secret Service. Local law enforcement and their assistance for the Secret Service was coordinated through the ESU. The coordination includes shared responsibilities for tactical teams on and around the Butler Fairgrounds, where the J13th rally was held. ESU also coordinated non-tactical operator law enforcement in larger areas, response units, and so on. Now, for the purposes of this report, I'd like to clarify it's intended to promote discussion. Here are some other observations of note. Now, prior to arranging travel to Butler, I had reviewed and filed scores of videos and recreations from online sources, so he was clipping like we were. Like many Americans, I invested countless hours in personal research. However, effective investigation means I gotta go there. I researched what I could in preparation for any role, and my first text about J13 was 3 minutes after the shooting. Now, the Butler Farm County is a fairgrounds, not a farm. Yes, it has barns to accommodate livestock shows and fair. Long-standing, very well-maintained, large fairgrounds. The Butler Farm, well-known fairground. Great, it's a big fairground, okay. AGR International is an internationally owned corporation. However, AGR was born of a glass research scientist in Butler in 1927. Great! In 1962, he sold his company, which became American Glass. The hell is this? According to my investigation, the U.S. Secret Service had never, prior to J13, assigned a counter-sniper team to a former POTUS, including Trump. Never assigned a counter-sniper team to a former president, including Trump. Now, I will not be 100% certain of this assertion without further investigation, but the Secret Service counter-sniper team stated clearly to ESU they had never been deployed to a former POTUS event, nor had they ever heard of that before either. Butler County runs the radio comms tower out of their 911 call center. That is pretty much the way radio comms work across America. If their radios are interoperable, a visiting law enforcement agency is assigned a frequency, a channel for their operation. If the radios are not interoperable, the visiting agency is offered actual radios to use. U.S. Secret Service did not retrieve the radios that had been set aside for them. See, that's an interesting fact. By Butler County Tactical Command. So there were radios Secret Service could have picked up. Radio comms were properly and perfectly arranged during extensive pre-mission planning. On J12, the Butler County ESU commander personally reminded the Secret Service counter-sniper teams, hey, get your assigned radios, which was positioned according to the planning the morning before, but it didn't happen. So we now know that they also didn't have two people in the same command center where we thought they did, so that they didn't need radios. Another solution, just give them a separate radio. That didn't happen. Radio traffic transmitted through a county radio 911 center is recorded. Chairman Kelly and I have a timeline and transcripts of all local radio, but the Secret Service deleted theirs. As provided to the ESU commander, Chairman Kelly and I also have other J13 briefing files. All right, so he's telling the rest of the team, hey, this is what I've got. There are videos circulating on the internet that appear to show a muzzle flash from inside the AGR building. We've seen that, yeah. From the window below Crooks' firing position. You guys have seen that one, right? Where that looks like there is a muzzle flash in a window. I carefully examined this window inside and out, and I interviewed the AGR employee who worked in the small office area. The window does not open and has never opened. The muzzle flash from inside that window is either a digital fabrication or an iPhone light or an iPhone camera flash reflected from the glass of the window. See, that's another interesting fact. So there was not a shooter in that building, according to him. That window just doesn't open. So no one shot a bullet through it. So if there was an iPhone light, was somebody taking a picture in there? Crooks did not have a ladder at the AGR building on J13th. He accessed the roof by climbing onto an air conditioning unit. I reenacted his climb with no problem. We saw that photo too. You could easily climb right up there. I have not investigated Crooks' origins, how he became to be a shooter, how he manufactured a remote trigger bomb. I've not reviewed the harvested evidence, nor have I examined his home, his vehicle, his family, his neighbors, classmates, examined his computer, his emails. I've not investigated the life and actions of him outside his actions on J13, but I will, we will. We're just getting started. Now, 8 shots were fired by Crooks from his firing and dying position. Thanks for the detail. On the AGR rooftop, the position provided excellent concealment from Crooks from the northern counter-sniper team due to the foliage and branches of the 2 trees, as we saw on that one roof. Crooks' firing position did not offer excellent concealment, though, from the southern counter-sniper team. However, it should be noted that the would-be assassin perfectly positioned himself to minimize the threat of counterfire from the ground or the Secret Service counter-sniper team. Crooks' firing position was also several feet back from the actual peak of the roof. By choosing this position, he minimized the skylined profile of his head and upper body, just like the CIA agents taught him. Great. All 8 casings were recovered and allegedly in proper possession of the FBI. Thomas Matthew Crooks' rifle is also allegedly in the proper possession of the FBI. I will need to examine all the physical evidence, all of it, he says, period. Now, the 9th shot fired on J 13th was from a Butler SWAT operator. Butler SWAT, so not Secret Service, was the counter sniper. From a Butler SWAT operator. It's like new facts every time we get an update. Operator from the ground about 100 yards away from the AGR building. Shot 9 hit Crooks' rifle stock and fragged his face, neck, right shoulder area from the stock breaking up. Wow. The SWAT operator who took this shot was a total badass. Sounds like it. When he had sighted the shooter, Crooks, as a mostly obscured by foliage moving target on the rooftop, he immediately left his assigned post, ran towards the threat, running to a clear shot position directly in the line of fire while Crooks was firing 8 rounds. On his own, this ESU SWAT operator took a very hard shot, 1 shot. The Secret Service didn't even take him out. He stopped Crooks, and importantly, I believe the shot damaged the buffer tube on Crooks' AR. I won't be certain of this until I examine the rifle, but I'm 99% sure, based on reliable eyewitness and ESU tactical officers who observed Crooks' rifle before the FBI harvested it as evidence, probably to manipulate it. This means that if the AR buffer tube was damaged, Crooks' rifle wouldn't have fired after his ace shot. Crooks went down from his firing position when shot 9 was fired. SWAT officer was certain of a hit. According to the ESU SWAT operator, Crooks recovered after just a few seconds and popped back up. So he got hit twice. So there was a 10th and I believe final shot was fired from the southern counter sniper team. Wow. So he got hit twice. One popped his gun apart and the other one killed him. Says, I will not be 100% certain of this until further investigation. However, I am quite sure that the U.S. Secret Service counter sniper team fired the killing shot. So I misspoke earlier, got ahead of myself. I thought he was going to say that there were only 9 shots. I thought we were done after 9, but he thinks there were 2 kill shots, kind of. One hit the gun and, wiped him up, kind of exploded on his face. And then the next shot he thinks killed him. So local SWAT shot first, then Secret Service second, which according to my investigation entered somewhere around the left mouth area and exited the right ear area. Instant over. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, the right ear area. So, I mean, he'd be shooting like this direction. Where's that bullet coming from? This exit entry aligns with the U.S. Secret Service Southern Counter Sniper Team position. So are they this way? Because I thought he was shooting this way. Water tower's back behind him. Trump's over there. So then one team pops this one, gun pops, or unless he's shooting this way, is he, other-handed? So anyways, maybe he turned around. We'd have to see it all drawn out on a map. But 10 shots is now what he is telling us. The FBI released all first responders that evening, much to everyone's surprise. Yeah, go home. Forget everything. Delete your text messages. We'll call you tomorrow. I interviewed several EMS cops, etc. Now, the FBI released the crime scene after just 3 days. Again, much to everyone's surprise. They're like spraying stuff off the walls. I interviewed several first responders who expressed everything from surprise to dismay to suspicion regarding the fact that the FBI released the crime scene so early after J13. It should be noted that the FBI was fully aware of the fact that Congress would be investigating, which is why they cleaned it up. The FBI does not exist in a vacuum. No, but you guys do. You don't really do much of anything. They had to know that releasing the J13 crime scene would injure the immediate observations of anyone. Yeah, because you didn't get to go look at it until it was now open to the public. The FBI cleaned up biological evidence from the crime scene, which is unheard of. Cops don't do that ever. Someone else cleans it up, but not the FBI. They're like, make sure there's no DNA because it's going to show up somewhere. On J13, one of Crooks' shot hits a pressurized hydraulic line. Okay, we thought that happened too. On a staged piece of heavy equipment. My effort to examine the hydraulic line evidence revealed the tractor belonged to a rental company. It's unknown if that hydraulic line was harvested properly as evidenced by the FBI, but it certainly should have been. Remains a question for further investigation. I need to examine the hydraulic line because confirmation of the caliber of the rifle project that hit the line would be helpful. That's how evidence works. Got to look at it. Now, my effort to examine Crooks' body when he went to visit it on August 5th caused quite a stir and revealed a disturbing fact. The FBI released the body for cremation 10 days after J13th. So they just torched the body. So he's already fried up, gone. Crooks is gone. On J23rd, Crooks was gone. That's it. Nobody knew this until Monday, August 5th, including the county coroner. He's like, what? Body? What? Law enforcement, the sheriff, no one knew. FBI burned the body. Yes, Butler County coroner technically had legal authority over the body, but I spoke with the coroner, and he would have never released Crooks's body to the family for cremation or burial without specific permission from the feds, from the FBI. Tort gone. The coroner's report and the autopsy report are both late. As of Monday, August 5th, they were a week late. The problem with me not being able to examine the actual body is I won't know 100% if the coroner report and the autopsy report are accurate. That's right. We will never actually know. No one will. That's the point. Yes, we'll get the reports and the pictures, but who knows where those pictures came from? No, this is what he looked like. Yeah, this is where the bullet went in. It wasn't the other agent behind him who shot him in the back of the head and then ran off, you know? He wasn't a patsy. Body's torched. These are the right photos. This is him. It's great. Yes, we'll get the reports and the pictures, but I will never not be able to say with certainty that those reports and the pictures are accurate according to my own examination of the body. Again, similar to releasing the crime scene and scrubbing the crime scene of biological evidence, this action by the FBI can only be described by any reasonable man as an obstruction to our investigative efforts. Please note, Mr. Chairman, that on J 23rd, the day that Crooks was cremated, both the Homeland Security Committee and the Oversight Committee had begun their investigation, and Johnson had already stated he was forming this body, which is why they're like, torch him, dude! Like, what are you waiting for? Get the gasoline, bro. Let's go. Why then, by what measure would the FBI release his body to the family? Because you're looking now. This pattern of investigative scorched earth by the FBI is quite troubling. This makes me think it is so rigged now even more. It's such a cover-up, man. It should be noted that my initial investigation on the ground in Butler was greatly assisted by the county tactical team commander and the head investigator for Butler. Those gentlemen had nothing to hide. No, of course not. They didn't try to get him killed. It was the Secret Service, and they were 100% accommodating despite my rather intense demands on their time and the resources due to the compressed schedule I was working with. Now, my assessment of the local law enforcement and their overall performance is that they were very professionally deployed and commanded because they're local cops. Yes, it was quite chaotic, and every single police officer reflects upon dangerous and extreme engagements, and we universally critique our own performance because crazy things happen on the street. However, my professional assessment for the purposes of this is that they performed local cops quite well. The owner, top management of the business, AGR, stayed with me and the two county investigators for 3 hours. Shout out to those guys. Gave me access to everything. He was very helpful, 100% squared away. I recreated every step of the county tactical team that was inside and every movement of Crooks outside. Examined every window. It was long and hot. The AGR exec stayed with us. No area was restricted in any way. That's great. It's awesome. Water tower was cleared by a drone, J13 morning, by county tactical commander. So someone checked the drone out, or the water tower out with the drone. The water tower ladder was never lowered that day. 2 local cops, non-ESU officers, were assigned to be parked in the water tower area as response units for traffic issues or whatever. They did leave that post, but only in the hour prior to the shooting. So probably no one on the water tower. Now, there are videos on the internet showing a dark figure or shadow on the water tower on J13. We played that here. If there had been someone on that tower, it would have to have been some top shelf operator way beyond anything I've ever actually seen. Regular SWAT operators or snipers would not have the skills and gear to quickly overcome the first 25 feet of no ladder and then climbing the remaining 75 feet to the catwalk and then climb that quite intimidating and precarious dome vent over access on the ladder. It is true that the vent area at the very top of the water tower is the only point that would have allowed a clear line of sight to both Trump's and Crooks' firing position. I cited out this fact very carefully during my hours on the ground in Butler. However, I do not believe it was possible for a second shooter sniper to be on top of that water tower on J13, nor have I seen any evidence that supports the theory of a second shooter. I'm not saying conclusively that there was no other shooter somewhere or that no other conspirators were involved, but I'm saying that based on my investigation, there were 10 shots fired on J13, which we thought there were 9. And all shots are accounted for and all shots align with their source. Crooks' 8 shots, 3 plus 5, yep. The ESU SWAT, which was the shot that blew the gun apart, and the Secret Service counter sniper team, which was the one kill shot in the head, game over. Now, I will be allowed to climb the tower at some point, maybe next month, but it's quite a climb. The Butler County Waterworks directors were very concerned about that because they'd said, okay, come do it later. I'll have to return when I can coordinate with their safety team, but we just ran out of daylight. Man, good for Klay Higgins. He's like, I'm going up there. Let's go check it out. So he says, Mr. Chairman, many questions remain, yet several theories have been examined. I am prayerful that our task force can move forward, guided by our shared love for America, to seek the full truth. Please know, as we continue, you can rely upon me as an investigator of fact, and that's why I submit this confidential, preliminary, investigative report. Signed by Congressman Klay Higgins. Okay, that was excellent. A lot of new details in there, and including that new shot that blew his gun apart. New details about where the bullet went in. We know that the body is now cremated, gone. They burned it 10 days later. Get rid of it. Congress is investigating. Torch that thing. And more. So, interesting report, and very grateful to Klay Higgins for writing that. Very, very nicely recently assembled. So that's what's happening there. Now, similarly, we also have another letter from senators. This one came out from two senators, you know. This one is Ted Cruz and Darrell Issa, and they're asking questions about the Secret Service and their cocaine cover-up. So Secret Service is just in a big mess. You see here, they wrote this to Ronald Rowe of the Secret Service and this guy, Secret Service Forensics Division. The two senators say, I am writing about serious concern. You guys discovered cocaine in the White House, and recent revelations suggest that there's a pattern of misconduct in your agency and a cover-up directed by Director Kimberly Cheadle. Now, the Secret Service is already under a bunch of scrutiny here for almost getting Trump killed and getting someone else killed. In recent years, there have been multiple instances where illegal drugs were discovered on White House grounds. Whistleblowers are reporting that these incidents were routinely handled by discreetly disposing of the substances without any formal reporting. But the discovery of cocaine was different, okay? The Secret Service agents, if they found that like Hunter is just dropping cocaine everywhere he goes, but we found something else differently. The discovery on the cocaine on July 2nd was different because it was found by a uniformed division officer, a member of the Secret Service committed to transparency and accountability, unlike others who had previously managed this stuff. And remember, the Secret Service would like take Hunter to rehab and stuff like that. They like knock on his door and be like, bro, you have to go. Dad needs you at the thing. Get your hookers out of here. Like they just cover up for him. They're like babysitters for Hunter. But the officer's adherence to proper protocol triggered a series of alarming events because this guy found the drugs and actually turned them in. Former Director Cheadle, who had close ties with the Biden family from her role on Biden's detail, appeared to prioritize avoiding public scrutiny, particularly in light of Hunter's drug addiction. Now, this shift became politically motivated, and now it's overshadowing the entire agency. Matt White, the vault director, reportedly got a phone call from Cheadle or her representative. Somebody called Matt and said, destroy the coke, get rid of it, just like Crooks' body. This directive was met with resistance from White and his superior, Glenn. The resistance to destroy the evidence, combined with Richard McCauley, the acting chief of the Uniform Division, being passed over for permanent division, raises concerns of retaliation. So when they objected to your destruction of evidence, you pass them over. Many within the agency view that as repercussions for opposing Cheadle. And then the evidence came out, obviously. Now, the investigation was abruptly closed less than 2 weeks after the discovery, citing a, quote, lack of physical evidence. But guess what? There was already DNA on the cocaine. Reports from within the Secret Service indicate that the FBI lab found DNA on the cocaine and yielded a partial hit, indicating a possible DNA match with someone known to be in the White House. This premature closure without conducting further searches or interviews raises serious concerns about the investigation's integrity, of which it has none. The American people deserve answers, and so I demand a detailed response to these questions. Secret Service, answer these to us. We want to know all instances of illegal drugs and contraband found on the White House. How many of those came from someone we've identified? How long did it take to identify that person? Did you charge anybody with crimes? Of course not. What aspect and what specific actions did the Secret Service take immediately following the discovery of the cocaine? Give us a timeline. On what grounds did the Secret Service not pursue additional service? Give us justifications for wrapping up this investigation. According to you people, what does a partial DNA hit mean? You know, in simple terms, like what does that mean? Can you find out who that is? Did it reveal family members of the person? Was it a specific individual? Was this someone in the DC area? Who authorized or made the decision to destroy the cocaine evidence? And what was the rationale behind this? Give us the names. Why was the uniformed division officer who initially reported this removed from the case? Reports say he was removed from the investigation because he wanted to follow, the protocol when you find drugs. And there were major disagreements on this. Why? Why was Richard McCauley passed over? Considering all of his time in the agency, of course, he opposed you, Cheadle, so why did you jump over him? Was there any internal or external pressure to limit this cocaine investigation? What steps were taken to preserve the chain of custody of the cocaine? Any breaches or irregularity? Was any evidence related to the cocaine intentionally destroyed or tampered with? Who was responsible for making the final decision to close the investigation? Was anyone in the Biden family or their immediate staff aware of the discovery of the cocaine? Did anybody try to get it back? Hey, I left a bag of flour. Gonna be making some tortillas later, says Hunter. Did any of them speak to you, Director Cheadle or Secret Service personnel, about this incident? Were you aware of this incident and did you participate in the decision-making process? What actions were you making to follow up on the DNA evidence with cocaine packaging? Were these actions consistent with your standard practices? Have any Secret Service employees reported concerns to you? And what measures are being implemented to stop more cocaine from coming into the White House? Well, Hunter will be gone soon. The integrity of and the public trust are on the shakiest ground we've ever seen, maybe in 60 years. We must uncover the full truth, and so we have some questions. We're Congress, we're senators. Give us some answers.